Eleanor Thompson had always been a maker. Born in 1955 on a wind-bitten farm in rural Kansas, she grew up watching her parents wrestle a living from soil that gave back grudgingly. Her father's hands were cracked and permanent dirt black. Her mother stretched one chicken into 3 meals. "The world's full of takers, Ellie," her father told her once, wiping sweat from his brow after a day that yielded almost nothing. "Don't join them. Be a maker." She carried that sentence like a talisman. At 18 she left for Chicago on a partial scholarship and sheer nerve, waitressing nights to pay for business classes. In a crowded diner one rainy evening she met Harold Thompson, salesman, dreamer, crooked smile. They married fast, moved west when his job did, and landed in California just as something restless and electric began stirring in garages across the Bay Area. Then, in 1985, Harold dropped dead at 48. Eleanor was 30, widowed, drowning in debt, sole parent to 5-year-old David. Friends told her to go home to Kansas. She refused. With the last of the insurance money she rented a narrow storefront in San Jose and hung a hand-painted sign, "Thompson Office Essentials." Pens, paper, typewriters, whatever the strange new tech companies sprouting around her needed. She stocked shelves after David fell asleep, did books by lamplight, made cold calls while he napped on a blanket in the back room. The gamble paid off. When personal computers exploded, she pivoted to cables and components. By the mid-90s her warehouses spanned the Bay Area and revenue crossed 7 figures. She hired single mothers, immigrants, women who reminded her of herself. David grew up watching her come home bone-tired and still find energy to check his homework. "You're the strongest person in the world, Mom," he'd say, small hands rubbing her aching feet. She never remarried. Every ounce of her went into the boy and the business. David flew through Stanford on a computer science degree, bright, ambitious, a little embarrassed by his mother's old-fashioned operation in a valley now obsessed with unicorns and hoodies. In 2020 he came to her with a pitch, Innotech Solutions, AI software to optimize broken pandemic supply chains. Investors wouldn't bite. He needed seed money. Eleanor sold Thompson Office Essentials for $15 million. $10 million went into Innotech, quietly, anonymously, routed through trusts and silent partnerships that left her name off every public document. She kept 51% controlling interest but never told a soul. She wanted David to taste what she had tasted, the terror and thrill of building something from nothing, believing it was his alone. "It's yours, sweetheart," she said. "Make it great." He did, at first. Innotech grew fast. Series A, Series B, headlines, a valuation that climbed toward $200 million by 2025. David married Claire, a sharp-edged Harvard MBA who joined as COO and accelerated everything with ruthless efficiency. Eleanor attended the wedding, sat in the front row beaming, and pretended not to notice Claire's cool appraisals and faint smirks. The calls from David slowed, then stopped. Months stretched between conversations. Eleanor filled the quiet with gardening, book clubs, volunteering at the senior center. At 70, silver-haired and neatly dressed, she looked like any pleasant retired grandmother. Inside, the old fire still burned low but steady. Then, one crisp autumn morning in 2025, her phone rang. "Mom, big investor meeting today. Could really use some of your classic business wisdom. Can you come in?" She felt needed for the first time in years. She dressed with care, navy dress, pearls, the perfume Harold had loved, and took an Uber to the gleaming glass tower in San Francisco. The offices were all chrome and oat milk lattes and ping-pong tables. David greeted her with a quick hug and led her to the executive conference room overlooking the bay. 20 people waited, venture capitalists in tailored suits, engineers in hoodies, executives scrolling phones. Claire sat at the head, flawless in designer armor, smile thin as paper. David introduced Eleanor offhand. "My mom has decades of real-world experience. Thought she could share a few insights." Eleanor stood. Her voice was soft but steady. She spoke of fundamentals, honesty when it hurt, patience in recessions, trust earned slowly and kept fiercely. She told them how, in 1992, she'd kept a crucial client for 20 years simply by telling the truth when a lie would have been easier. Claire's laugh cut through the room like a shard of glass. Let's be serious. That's quaint, but this isn't the typewriter era. We're disrupting global industries, not selling pencils to secretaries. Laughter rippled, nervous at first, then bolder. David didn't stop it. He smirked. Eleanor felt the weight of every one of her 70 years settle on her chest. She sat. The rest of the meeting passed in a haze of charts and jargon. When it ended, David touched her arm lightly. Thanks for coming, Mom. I'll call you later. He didn't. That night she cried until there was nothing left. At dawn something shifted, grief hardened into clarity. She called Marcus Hale, her attorney of 30 years. Pull every document on Innotech. It's time. The next day Marcus confirmed what she already knew, airtight proof of her majority ownership. An emergency board meeting was scheduled for the following morning. She dressed simply this time, a slacks, blouse, low heels. No pearls. The boardroom filled with puzzled investors and advisors. David and Claire arrived irritated, assuming some trivial agenda item. Marcus laid folders on the table like evidence. Slides appeared, wire transfers, trust agreements, share certificates, all tracing back to Eleanor Thompson. Silence. Then pandemonium. Claire shrieked. David went white. Eleanor spoke quietly. Effective immediately, Claire is terminated as COO. David is demoted pending review. I will serve as interim CEO. Security escorted a raging Claire from the building. David sat frozen, unable to meet his mother's eyes. Eleanor looked at him, at the stranger her son had become, and felt only cold, clean resolve. You stood by while I was humiliated. You laughed. Now you live with the consequences. In the months that followed she steadied the company, cleaned out excess, promoted overlooked talent, restored the ethical corners Claire had sliced away. Morale rose. Revenue stabilized. David eventually asked for forgiveness. She gave him a modest advisory role and nothing more. She sold most of her shares over the next 2 years, retired truly wealthy, and founded a small fund to mentor women starting businesses late or starting over, single mothers, immigrants, widows. Makers. One quiet evening she sat on her porch watching the sun sink over the same suburbs she had conquered twice. She raised a glass of wine to the fading light. To the makers, she whispered. And for the first time in a long time, Eleanor Thompson felt entirely, fiercely seen. Support this channel. Please subscribe and hit the like button. It helps stories like this be heard. And write in the comments what city or country you are listening from.